So right now, what I'd really like to do is just recognize all of the advocates in the room, all of the mental health professionals, and all of the organizations, and the folks who are investigating these domestic crimes, because they see every one of them every day. Imagine if you went to work every day and that's what you saw, little kids involved in things. So if they could just rise, any of them that are involved in that, and I would like to give them a hand for what they're doing, any organization, any of the advocates, thank you. Thank you all. So another thing that we're doing in the city is we actually created a risk assessment tool. So when we get involved in these things, we try to determine what are the tangible risks in this particular incident that might cause us to have to get even more engaged and get more people, because see, it's not just us. It's not just those of us in uniform or carrying a badge or those hired by the law enforcement community, okay? It's everyone in this room. And I'm going to tell you something. Besides maybe a couple of very passionate meetings on some things like the Central Business District and a few other things, this is the largest group that I've seen in the 30 years in law enforcement to actually go and meet together to address this specific issue, unless it was a conference. But from a community perspective, thank you. So we aggressively investigate all of these. We coordinate and share information with all of the other agencies and get whoever we need to, whether it be private organization, faith-based community, whether it be other jurisdictions, the county, the state. SLED's here, thank you. The county is obviously here. This is their area, but we partner very well together to handle these things, and including crime prevention offices for all of us. We get as many resources as we can involved in this, because it's not our problem. It's our problem, the community's problem, every one of us. And what was said earlier about community involvement, and in essence, if you see something, say something, that is so powerful. That's the resolution. The resolution is you get engaged. You don't hide it. You don't let it just become a silent issue. That's the resolution, in my humble opinion. The other thing that we've done, and it's very interesting, and thank y'all for putting this together, and I heard the next meeting about the youth coming here. Yes. This year, one of our initiatives in the city is we're trying to create what the chief has defined as listening sessions. So what do we mean by that? It means we want to go out to the things like this with our officers and have the officers sit with the youth and listen. Listen to what they have to say. Not just about the good things and the great things that maybe we're doing, but how can we get more involved? What are we missing? And perhaps what is their vision of what we do? Try to help them understand what we do, and then also listen to maybe what we should not be doing, okay? Listening to all of them and listening to the youth is very powerful, because we're going to change things here, not necessarily in the eyes of the people in this room, but in the eyes of the people you're going to go home to. And some of you young guys and ladies are in here. That's where it's going to change. It's a generational issue, and we have to stop it at that level. We have to be engaged and involved in those individuals. You know, one of the things that I do is, if you don't mind, the council member, now representative, we have stood on a street many nights, looking down and asking why. Okay? Then what happens as we get engaged in these things and we hear the different tragedies that have occurred, and the tragedies we've heard here today, is we go home, and I have a 10-year-old and a 30-year-old and a wife, and in-laws who live with me. Okay? 2 cats and a dog. And fish. So I go home, and sometimes I've been called out at night, more often than not, on these. And it's cold, and it's my son has asked to sleep with me that night because it's Dad's weekend. But I get back up just like our people do, and we respond out to that cold, dark, lonely street, and there's the tragedy. Now I go home after that. First thing I do is I kiss my son as he's sleeping. I'm blessed that I have the relationship that I have. I kiss my wife. And I wake my daughter up in Virginia and call her. Because it's a family thing for me, and I'm blessed with that. But in seeing that, it makes me wonder, not what we can do, but what we must do to stop this. We must do things to stop this. And we do that by getting involved, getting engaged. Now I'm going to say something, I might hurt some feelings, okay? This is very powerful with everyone here today. Please do not let time and distance cause disinterest and cause you to go away. Because that's what happens. When the crimes are not occurring, when the bullets are not flying, when the knives are not cutting, and world and life gets back in your face, the day-to-day grind, you go away. You become disinterested, not because your heart's not there, but because you're so involved in other things in life. So what we have to do consciously is to make sure that we stay engaged even when there's nothing going wrong. We go to community meetings all the time, and Chief Mullen does these regularly, and I'm sad to report that they're very, very little attendance. And thank you. What do you say?
Until something happens.
Okay, there you go. And what happens when something happens, and I'll give you an example, one that might resonate a little bit. Daniel Island is a very, very safe community. One year they had 11 burglaries. That's important. Remember what I said earlier, one crime, one victim is too much. Okay? That's the first time I've seen that whole community at a meeting. Okay? So that just is telling you that when things are going wrong, when things are going bad, we become engaged. We need to be engaged when it's going right, or when we're trying to find solutions, and when we're trying to resolve things together, and not just after it happens. That's right. Not just while we're trying to do an investigation and our emotions are involved, and then after the grieving, after the anger and the pain, we go away. So please don't do that. And I think a couple of the last things that I want to say, so I don't take up too much time, I offer to you that all lives matter. That's right. Every life. Even a criminal's life matters. And I also want to thank you on behalf of all of us who serve you for allowing us to do that, because without you, we couldn't exist. So thank you for letting us serve.
Once again, thank you to Deputy Chief Tony Elder for those potent, valuable words. I'm going to keep things going. I did want to add a couple of things onto what I heard over the last few minutes. And one in particular is with, I know that Ms. Danielle said as far as my brother's keeper and stuff like that, you know, and I always think about these things a lot. But at the same time, you know, I don't want somebody keeping me who ain't got their act together. You know what I'm saying? You know, we gotta look in the mirror and make sure our stuff is in order. You know, how you gonna help somebody else and you just out of order and out of control? So we need to look ourselves in the mirror. And a lot of this connects through music, these are some of the things that I deal with, that I speak about loudly on the radio. One in particular is with DJs. They'll go in the club and they'll encourage women that they don't need a man and they can do it all by themselves, all by themselves. Well, I didn't grow up that way, okay? And I had a whole family, thanks to God bless my parents, and they taught me family values and how important, I promise you this, as I stare out before you guys, how important it was to have a dad in my life, actively in my life. So we dismiss that, and that really bothers me, okay? That really bothers me. I understand, it's like I had a conversation with my mother, and I promise you, I just talked about this on the radio yesterday, where my mom referred to a couple of men that was in my sister's lives as losers. We ain't talking about the losers. We talking about getting a man with substance in your life that's going to be there to help raise the child. Because again, at the end of the day, yes, women do a great job as a single parent of raising their kids, but at the end of the day, it really takes a whole family for us young men to get really well balanced, okay? Just like we don't understand what it would be to 100% raise a woman as a man, vice versa too. It's some things that you're just not going to be able to connect with that a dad or a real man that's active in a child's life is going to be able to do. So, you know, I want to encourage, especially our women, please change your mindset on that. You know, and one other thing I'll say real quickly is the fact of the matter is, this just happened, it's been in the news, everybody knows about it, whether it be Ray Rice or whether it was Adrian Peterson, and or even if I could mention too, Chris Brown.
Yeah.
Okay? You know what I got on the radio from our young women? Well, what did the girl do? That bothers me. That really bothers me. Now, one just happened 2 days ago. There's a rapper, one hit wonder, if you will, his name was Afro Man. A young lady came on the stage, and he just hooked and knocked the girl out. I got comments, I put on there, shaking my head, all this other stuff, you know. I got comments from the women, well, what did she do? Or I bet you she won't go on the stage again. That bothers me, the mindset of our young women thinking that they're the problem, they're the actual victims, but they're making the guys out to be the victim, and they're the ones losing their lives and getting beat. So we have to change the mindset of our young women out there to know that, as has been resonated and said over and over and over again, including by the chief, one time is one time too many. Because when it comes to, let's say, Ray Rice, if you will, it's like, when you see him knock this young lady out, okay, that's bad enough. But then he goes to just walking over like she's garbage. You mean to tell me that was the first time that ever happened in that relationship? Come on, y'all. And that's what we need to get to. One time is too many. Hold up. You just raised your hand to me, that's not cool. And at the same time, let us make sure we're addressing it, even as the nosy neighbor. What's going on over there? You all right? Oh, don't worry about what we got going on. No, I need to be worried. There's a lot of commotion, a lot of fuss going on. What's happening? Talk to me. And even if they don't, then you just have to be the one to say, you know what? Let me make that call right there on behalf of that person. I promise you, after a while, they'll come back and thank you. That's what I say on the radio all the time. You may not like what I say, I'm probably getting on your nerves or whatever, but in the long run, it may even take you 20 years for that light to click on. But when it click on, you'll come back and thank me. I said I wanted to get some shirts made like that. You'll thank me later. And that's where we need to be with it, you know? I may too be a busybody, too nosy, but I promise you, you'll thank me later, because nothing is more valuable than a human life, all right? We want to keep things moving, and I thank you for letting me get that out, because that was really heavy on my mind here. But I would like to call up, because she's going to continue to give us information on some valuable information, what we could be doing in the community to make sure we stamp this violence, senseless violence out. I would like to call up Ms. Condria. I believe she's out here. Is she out here? Ms. Condria LaGree Taylor.
I had to come back to my old, to my stomping grounds. Pretty much, I'm from Johns Island. I went to school with Dwayne. I went to school with Melinda. I went to school with Tremaine. So basically, back in the day, it took a village to raise a child. Ain't too much villages going on no more. One time before, when I used to get in trouble, the neighbor beat you.
Yeah.
Your mama beat you.
Yeah.
Your daddy beat you. Auntie, uncle, everybody beat you, right? Mm-hmm. So now it's like, I don't want nobody to say nothing to my child. Don't say nothing to this, don't say nothing to that. No, you gotta do better than that. Try and tell you. It's getting to the point that we are losing our kids. And to piggyback on some things that were said as far as raising our boys to be men, I am proud of my 3. I have 3 boys. I woke up Valentine's Day morning with a rose by my head from my oldest son. I raised him how I want him to go. He's usually here. Matter of fact, he's in the back somewhere. My kids are always with me when I come to these events. For another thing too, I've been out trying to basically fight the violence from coming to Johns Island and keeping the people that's out of Johns Island in Johns Island. Basically keeping the murderers and the killers and the dope dealers in their own area. But then guess what? It's spilled back over here. We ain't had this much violence in a long time. How many people can raise their hand and say we had this much violence on Johns Island and Womalaw put together? Nobody, no hand? A few? 5, 6, 7? Now we getting them every other week or every other month. You know what I'm saying? It's getting to the point that it's getting ridiculous. Even with the men, I went through domestic violence. I wouldn't call it domestic violence because I was raised, he hit me, I hit him back. Point blank. My mom, my dad didn't teach me to just sit there, you know, and hit him back. And he see you hit him back, and sometimes, usually they stop, but nowadays they get to the point where they don't even stop no more. You got to really fight them. So, you know, it's been to the point that even with men, you got some men that won't tell that they're being abused. You got some girls that are saying that they won't be abused, or he's not going to do this and he's not going to do that. I've been through the whole scenario. I went through parents with abuse. I went through that. I even went through it myself. I wouldn't call it abuse because we fought. I just figured fighting was different than abuse. But it's not. So, you know what I'm saying? And I even had it to where I raised my 3 boys for a year, 2 years by myself, and my husband came back into the household. So it is hope that it can happen. For women, we got to stand up and say what we got to say. We can't allow these guys to put their hand on us all kind of way and then just don't say nothing. And homegirls, best friends, if you know your homegirl getting beat up, then you should say something. That's right. If you got to anonymously call and say, hey, so-and-so is getting beat, you got to. I don't know if you remember 2 or 3 years ago, Zakia Lawson lost her life. She was murdered. The guy killed himself. That was my husband's first cousin. I looked at her as a sister. I don't have any sisters. So when that happened, that tragedy happened, it affected my life too. They say for one homicide, one murder, it affects 7 people. Am I right, Aunt Easter? That's my auntie over there. But for one homicide, one murder, it affects seven families. So we got to get active. We got to continue doing this. And as they were saying, we've been to plenty community meetings, and this is the biggest crowd ever. I mean, I went to North Charleston meetings just because, you know what I'm saying? And like I think one of the family, Dwayne, I had to take my kids off of the island too to go to play sports. Sid, I always tell you, I want my boy to play baseball for you, right? We need to bring that back. We have plenty of things we used to do on the island. We can't even do it no more. We need for our community leaders to listen to what we got to say. Some of us younger folks, we can put our fingers on some of the things that are going on in the community. We just need somebody to listen. You know what I'm saying? We need for y'all younger folks to come out to the community meetings and go and get registered to vote. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nothing wrong with learning how to vote. Go out there and get registered to vote. Don't be too proud to vote. You know, I was trying to get my son to even work at the voters registration. You know, we have to do our part too. It's not a black-white thing. My son's godmother's white. I always tell people I don't see that color, the situation. Stop blaming other people for what we got going on at home. Be responsible for what you got going on at home. If your son is beating his girlfriend up, then 9 times out of 10, you need to say something to your son. If your daughter is beating her boyfriend up, then you need to say something to her daughter. You know, you have to do it, because if you don't, we're going to keep losing them. We're going to keep losing them day by day, day by day. And it's hurtful to see. I didn't even go to any of the funerals. I went to see Dwayne's face. I couldn't even go to the funeral. I couldn't even go to Melinda's funeral. I went to see the face. We all grew up. That's the bad part. You know, we always thought we were going to be young forever, but we're not. You know, but we need our community leaders to back us too, as far as our age group. And, you know, I have to give a big clap up to Smurf and Dixon and you know, Mr. Gilliard and DJ Cad, even though he didn't never accept me on Facebook. But I'll put you on blast. You in my neck of the woods. You know, Danielle, me and Danielle write together for So Exquisite magazine. I always have people say, why you